Hey everyone, it's Kelsey. This is Essentially Book. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. And today is another day of Bookmas. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2023 reading survey, which Abby Reeds did. I'll tag that below as well as do all of the prompts. This is kind of a bookish superlative type concept where I'm just going to go over the books I read last year and kind of do a survey of everything. And there's one question I will not be addressing. It's about manga. I don't read manga, so that's just one that is not applicable. Let's get started. I just thought this would be a fun way to recap last year. I still need to do my reading stats. I'm still working on my spreadsheet and getting everything put together. I use the Currently Reading spreadsheet, which is a podcast for my bookish reading spreadsheet. And then on Saturday, I will be doing my December reading wrap up. I normally post videos on Sunday, but because I've done 12 days of content, I'm not gonna do a Sunday video. I hope you can forgive me. We will put another video up then following Sunday and we'll just go from there. I need a break. And I think my computer does too. My computer really struggled getting up the video yesterday, like really struggled. It shut down like 15 times and I was like, I think I just need to let you sleep for a night and then try to re-upload. And so that's why I ended up holding off on posting and it seemed to work. So fingers crossed my laptop, which has been with me since law school, just continues. My goal for this year is to get a new laptop because it's very old. But anyways, okay, let's get started with this bookish survey. All right, so the very first question is, how many books did you read? Did you meet your goal? I read 139 books. Actually, I think I read 142. If I count the Kindle Unlimited smut I may have read on the last day of the year. I should just count it. But I don't like to count certain things on my Goodreads because I'm friends with like my mom and stuff like that on there, you know. So, okay, I basically did hit my goal. My goal was 100 books and I far surpassed that. My most read genre is romance, followed by general fiction. I read like 30 something romance novels last year and then my general fiction was like in the 20s. That's a pretty usual stat for me. I do read a ton of historical romance, so these are pretty easy to fly through. Longest and shortest books you've read. The longest book that I read last year was A Promised Land by Barack Obama, and the shortest book that I read was Snow Glass Apples by Neil Gaiman, which was a graphic novel, and it's a really creepy Snow White retelling. The art is gorgeous, but the story was just messed up enough that I hated it a little bit. I don't know, it was a very unexpected graphic novel. We did it for a book club because it won some like graphic novel award, but it was short. The art was beautiful. It was just very messed up. All right, my favorite book published in 2023 was Tom Lake. That was my second book in my top 10 from my video last week. I just really loved that novel, and Ann Patchett is quickly becoming a favorite author. She just writes about the mundane aspects of life in such a beautiful way, and this book was a book about mothers and daughters and your relationship with your parents and looking back at past love. It was just a really good book. I really loved it. My favorite debut book in 2023, I put Take My Hand. I don't think that published in 2023. So I'll go with, one second, let me look at my NetGalley. That would be more helpful, I think, because I read a lot of debuts in 2023. Oh, I would say Forget Me Not by Julie Soto would be one that I really enjoyed. Yeah, I would say Forget Me Not was probably one of my favorites. Mame was also a really good one by Jessica George. And that followed a woman who was struggling with depression, and she was the head of her family as far as jobs and working. And she just had a lot of burden to carry. And then there's loss within that and grief. I thought Mame was very good. So maybe between that and Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, which was a beautiful romance between like a wedding planner and a florist. And I want to get it for my permanent shelf because I loved it that much. So those are probably my two favorite debuts in 2023. Favorite book not published this year is probably The Heart's Invisible Furies. When I say I think about this book every day, I'm not kidding. I just thought this was a really beautiful book. It was sweeping, it was epic. It just ripped your heart out and like made you feel things about the human experience quite a bit. This is essentially about a gay man coming into himself in Ireland and having to flee because Ireland is not great for gay men at the time. He comes to the United States and he really sees so much in history. This is just a really beautiful book. I don't know, I have just a lot of feelings about this book, so there's that. A book that lived up to the hype was Carrie Soto Is Back. I've talked about this as well in my top 10 of the year. was not excited about this book at all, and everyone was hyping it, and then I was like, fine, I'll read it, and I actually like adored every moment of it. It was such a fun reading experience. So Carrie Soto is back. So a book that did not live up to the hype is Happiness Falls, and I hate that this is the one that I'm putting into that category. I mean, honestly, this one, and then am I going to talk about the next one too? Okay, these are two books that did not live up to the hype for me. And they were overhyped. And I think the problem is, had I gone into these blind, they would have been like 5 stars, amazing book. But because there was so much hype and I knew a lot going into them, it just wasn't the best for me. They were both 4-star reads still, because I can appreciate the value that they've added to literature. I can appreciate the commentary, the writing, the stories, but they were not 5-star reads, when I think had I walked into them not knowing anything, they would have both been 5-star reads. So that's a reader know thyself. I think next year I need to be a little more careful about hyped books and try to read things pre-getting overhyped. Kind of sad about that, but it is what it is. And then Babel is also in the next category as the book that felt like the biggest accomplishment. I would say of the accomplishment books, it would be these two, because they're both massive. They're both deep. This took me forever to read. This one was one I just read very slowly and savored, but it's very complex. The world building is really nuanced, and just understanding the intricacies of this story, it just requires a lot of brain power. It's not like a fast fantasy, which it was also hyped as a fantasy. It is not. I would say it's more magical realism with historical fiction as like the main component. It talks a lot about colonialism and imperialism, which are things that I really love in books, because I studied that in my undergraduate degree in history. That was one of my emphasis. I just really enjoyed this. She's a master craft. It was a very smart book. Again, it was overhyped, but a really good book, one that I'm proud that I accomplished. And then my favorite character is still probably anybody in the Inspector Gamache series. Reading these books are like family to me. It's like coming home. It's cozy. It's comfortable. I love the development of the characters. They just feel like family members at this point, because this is book 17 that I read this year, and book 18 is up next for me. Another character that I really loved was Crow Mary. Is a historical fiction novel about a Crow woman named Mary, and her just heart and determination and independence and everything. She's just a wonderful heroine. It was just an incredible, incredible book. All right, my least favorite character was Anthony in The Measure. I would also argue Mary Roach from Bonk. She's the author of Bonk. But in The Measure, Anthony is a politician, and he has horrible political viewpoints that are sweeping the nation. And this book is about everybody on earth getting a string delivered to their doorstep, and it tells you how long you're going to live. Anthony is a politician who thinks people with short strings should be discriminated against, and it's just, oh, he's gross. I think there might be some metaphors and maybe allegories in this book. I don't know, but this was, yeah. Wow. I got a lot of angry feelings about Anthony. But then in Bonk, I just really hated that book, and some of the practices that the author did to research were questionable and unethical, and that really bothered me. My favorite couple was easily Imogen and Tommy from Knockout. Tommy go boom. Imogen, this book follows the Hells Bells, and they are a girl gang in England that basically are fighting the patriarchy in a time when women are constantly like put down because they're not the patriarch. And so women have no power in this like Regency England, and Imogen and the Hells Bells have women come to them for help when like they're being abused. And this team of women, like, they just do things to make men get their worth and make sure that they're held accountable. And so Imogen is a scientist, which women shouldn't be that at this time. What I love about this book is Imogen is unabashedly herself, and she's frequently like, she knows she's too much. She's too much, too big, too loud, just too much. And Tommy is the detective who's trying to figure out where all these weird backhanded crimes are coming from, and they're all coming from the Hells Bells. Of course, their paths. He's like a straight-laced inspector, and Imogen is this like wild, she does what she wants, she blows things up because that's her hidden talent with her science. So Tommy Go Boom is like kind of a joke within the Sarah McLean universe and world, where Tommy goes boom for Imogen. And yeah, I don't know. This is just a really great, fun historical romance series. If you like Tessa Dare, you need to read this. The best written book that I read this year, I don't have it with me anymore, I don't know where it went, is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. I just thought the writing was beautiful. It knocked me on my feet like multiple times, to the point of like me crying, because the words were just so gorgeous on the page. And there's so many scenes in here. It's set amidst like a very harsh, cold Arctic Sea, Antarctic Sea. It's a really good book to read in the winter, but you just feel the environment. You feel the depths of the emotion and the trauma that the main character went through. It's just a lovely, lovely book. And I really, really liked the writing. The writing just really has stuck with me. The book that you pushed the most people to read in 2023, I would say The Women by Kristen Hanna, even though it doesn't come out till 2024. You guys all know my love for that book, and I can't shut up about it. I've told so many people they need to make sure they have it on hold. Like within my real life, I know there's a lot of you on here who've put it on hold. If you can get it, read it. It's fantastic. It's better than The Nightingale and The Great Alone, which were ones I also gave 5 stars by Kristen Hanna, but I just really, really liked. This one just really was powerful to me in a way. And I think when you read it, you'll see why I loved it so much. I just can't stop thinking about this book. So that's the one I've probably pushed the most people to read. My favorite book cover of the year is Wayward by Emily Lay. It's just a gorgeous cover. Like, there's really not a lot to be said other than look at how pretty the cover is, and that's why I said that. My favorite book adaptation was actually the 3 Pines series on Amazon Prime. I am really sad they're not making another season of it, but they did the first 5 books, 4 books and a novella in the series, and it was just really well done. I thought it was really true to the story, but they also updated some of the storylines to cover more of the Indigenous plight in Canada and like talking about Indigenous schools and stuff. So I just really liked that adaptation. I want to watch Leave the World Behind on Netflix because I think I would really enjoy that. Bridgerton came out last year, so just kidding. Daisy Jones and the Six was really good. I thought I still need to watch Lessons in Chemistry, but those are all I can think of right now. And then the book that made me cry the most, again, Migrations. The writing is so lovely, and the author knows how to convey like moral ambiguity and I don't even know, guys. Just that's all I got. I cried so many times in that book. What book made me laugh the most was easily The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. The characters were hilarious, and I'm super excited for the sequel that's coming out next year. You guys, it's just a hug in a book. Characters are hilarious. Yeah. A new favorite author you discovered this year, easily Ann Patchett. You guys know I'm read 2 books of hers, and they both were kind of in my top books of the year. I have The Dutch House. I want to go through her backlist more. I truly, truly am just in love with her and obsessed with her writing. And the best nonfiction book you read this year, again, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. As a political scientist, historian, lawyer, this is just everything I love. I really like the policy discussions and how he took really boring things like the financial crisis and just absolutely made me super interested in it. And that he writes with such humility and love for America, but he's also very critical of some of his own mistakes and glowing when he needs to be. Self-awareness of Barack Obama in this book is very apparent, and I really did enjoy it. I do listen to a lot of podcasts from former staff of his, so like this is an environment I'm pretty familiar with, culture that I'm pretty familiar with. I just knew I'd love this. So that is the Bookish survey for 2023, and I feel like I had a great year for reading. I read very broadly. I don't think publishing had the best year, but for me, I really am happy with the books that I read. I got some 5 stars, lots of 5 stars. I got a lot of books from like a wide range off my shelf, and I do read very broadly. I think that's just something that I'm pretty good at, is maybe I just can't focus on one genre the best. So I do read a lot of things. So I think 2023 was a great reading year for me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you tomorrow with my bookish stats.